They contribute 60% to the world's population and about 80% to global trade. And right now in India, they're holding discussions on a plethora of issues of international concern. Hello and welcome to Y Factor. I'm Shreya Upadhyay, and today on Y Factor, we will be talking about the G20 countries and how India is leading this grouping under its presidency that started on the 1st of December this year and will continue till November 2023. Now today on Y Factor, we will be getting an opinion of youngsters of the country of what they think about India's presidency of G20. And right now I am at a very prestigious journalism institute, that is the Indian Institute of Mass Communication in the National Capital. And these are the people who in future will be communicating to you, about major issues of global concern. And right now, what they think about G20, India's presidency of it, and how India is really navigating its way through global concerns. We'll talk about all of that with them today. But first, let's take a quick look at what G20 is all about. G20 अंतर्राष्ट्रीय आर्थिक सहयोग के लिए अग्रणी मंच है। यह सभी प्रमुख अंतर्राष्ट्रीय आर्थिक मुद्दों पर वैश्विक वास्तुकला और शासन को आकार देने और मजबूत करने में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाता है। G20 सदस्य कौन हैं? इस समूह में 19 देश और यूरोपीय संघ शामिल हैं। 19 सदस्यों में अर्जेंटीना, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, ब्राजील, कनाडा, चीन, फ्रांस, जर्मनी, भारत, इंडोनेशिया, इटली, जापान, कोरिया, मेक्सिको, रूस, सऊदी अरब, दक्षिण अफ्रीका, तुर्की, यूनाइटेड किंगडम और यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स शामिल हैं। G20 शिखर सम्मेलन प्रतिवर्ष एक रोटेटिंग प्रेसिडेंसी के नेतृत्व में आयोजित किया जाता है। भारत वर्तमान में 1 दिसंबर 2022 से 30 नवंबर 2023 तक नेतृत्व कर रहा है। G20 समूह शुरू में बड़े पैमाने पर व्यापक आर्थिक मुद्दों पर केंद्रित था, लेकिन पिछले कुछ वर्षों में अन्य वैश्विक चिंताओं को भी एजेंडा में शामिल किया गया है। इनमें जलवायु परिवर्तन, सतत विकास, स्वास्थ्य, कृषि, ऊर्जा, पर्यावरण, आतंकवाद और भ्रष्टाचार हैं। G20 कैसे काम करता है? G20 में 2 तरह की बैठकें होती हैं, एक फाइनेंस ट्रैक और दूसरा शेरपा ट्रैक। वित्त मंत्री और केंद्रीय बैंक के गवर्नर फाइनेंस ट्रैक का नेतृत्व करते हैं, जबकि शेरपा या नेताओं के प्रतिनिधि शेरपा ट्रैक का नेतृत्व करते हैं। फाइनेंस ट्रैक का नेतृत्व सदस्य देशों के वित्त मंत्री और केंद्रीय बैंक के गवर्नर करते हैं, जो सदस्य देशों के बीच बेहतर वित्तीय जुड़ाव के लिए नीति समन्वय पर बारीकी से काम करते हैं। शेरपा ट्रैक शिखर सम्मेलन के लिए मुद्दों पर चर्चा करता है और G20 के मूल कार्य का समन्वय करता है। इसके अलावा ऐसे एंगेजमेंट ग्रुप हैं जो G20 देशों के नागरिक समाजों, सांसदों, थिंक टैंकों, महिलाओं, युवाओं, श्रम, व्यवसायों और शोधकर्ताओं को एक साथ लाते हैं। G20 क्यों मायने रखता है? G20 सदस्य दुनिया की आबादी का लगभग 2/3, वैश्विक सकल घरेलू उत्पाद का करीब 90% और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय व्यापार का लगभग 80% प्रतिनिधित्व करते हैं। समूह में विकासशील और साथ ही विकसित राष्ट्र शामिल हैं, जो आम वैश्विक चुनौतियों का समाधान खोजने के लिए मिलकर काम करते हैं। वैश्विक आर्थिक और वित्तीय मुद्दों पर चर्चा करने के लिए वित्त मंत्रियों और केंद्रीय बैंक के गवर्नरों के लिए एक मंच के रूप में एशियाई वित्तीय संकट के बाद 1999 में G20 की स्थापना की गई। 2007 के वैश्विक आर्थिक संकट के मद्देनजर इसे राज्य और सरकार के प्रमुखों के स्तर पर अपग्रेड किया गया था। 18वें G20 शिखर सम्मेलन 9 और 10 सितंबर 2023 को नई दिल्ली में होगा। इस वर्ष भारत की G20 अध्यक्षता के तहत एजेंडा में अन्य मुद्दों के अलावा आतंकवाद का मुकाबला करने, आपूर्ति श्रृंखला में व्यवधान और विश्व मामलों में एकता पर विशेष ध्यान दिया जाएगा। दिलचस्प बात यह है कि G20 लोगो भारत के राष्ट्र ध्वज के जीवंत रंगों केसरिया, सफेद, हरा और नीला से प्रेरणा लेता है। यह भारत के राष्ट्र फूल कमल के साथ पृथ्वी ग्रह को जोड़ता है, जो चुनौतियों के बीच विकास को दर्शाता है। पृथ्वी जीवन के प्रति भारत के गृह समर्थक दृष्टिकोण को दर्शाती है, जो प्रकृति के साथ पूर्ण सामंजस्य में है। भारत की G20 प्रेसिडेंसी का विषय वासुधैव कुटुंबकम या एक पृथ्वी, एक परिवार, एक भविष्य महाउपनिषद के प्राचीन संस्कृत पाठ से लिया गया है। ये ब्रह्मांड में सभी जीवित प्राणियों के परस्पर संबंध को दर्शाता है। So as you saw, G20 is basically a grouping of 19 countries and the European Union, and currently India is leading the presidency of this grouping. Let's try and understand from these youngsters, young students here, what they think of India leading this grouping and why they think it's important for the country. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Soumya Shukla.
Soumya, I'm sure you've seen some very colorful, vibrant visuals coming out of whether it's Rajasthan's Kumbhalgarh or now Bengaluru, which is holding the meeting of G20 Sherpas and the finance representatives. First of all, what do you understand from G20?
I think it's a grouping of developing and developed countries, and I think at this time India can become a bridge between them, and in the backdrop of conflict it can become a bridge can become a messenger of stability and peace for all.
Which is what we have been doing, right? We have sort of talked about dialogue and how dialogue and diplomacy is the way forward in the times that we are living in the kind of crisis that we've seen between Russia and Ukraine. But as she said, it is a grouping and an extremely important one of developed and developing countries. How do you think that benefits India?
मेरा नाम मनीषा है। मेरा ये मानना है कि अभी जो सम्मेलन हुआ था उसमें हमारे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने जिस प्रकार से इंडिया का पक्ष रखा इस यूक्रेन और रशिया वॉर पे वो काफ़ी सराहनीय था। उन्होंने ना ही किसी का पक्ष लिया, ना ही किसी की आलोचना की, लेकिन उन्होंने काफ़ी कड़े शब्दों में कह दिया कि युद्ध किसी भी रूप में समाधान नहीं हो सकता। तो मुझे लगता है कि इस तरीके से भारत ने जो पक्ष लिया, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने जिस प्रकार से भारत को प्रस्तुत किया, वो काफ़ी हमारे लिए बेहतर रहेगा।
एंड इस बार का थीम ऑल्सो इज वन अर्थ, वन फैमिली, वन होम। आपको लगता है कि भारत ने एक बहुत, जैसे आपने कहा, सराहनीय तरीके से इसको ना सिर्फ आगे लेके गया है, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जब आती है वो भी बहुत अच्छे से की है?
बिल्कुल, मेरा मानना है कि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है वो भी काफ़ी अच्छे तरीके से किया गया है। जैसे इस बार का जो थीम रखा गया है, दैट इज वन फैमिली, वन अर्थ एंड वन फ्यूचर। तो इसके जरिए कहीं ना कहीं जो हमारे देश का जो एक शुरू से ही हमारी जो संस्कृति जो रही है वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, उसको आगे बढ़ाने के लिए कि किसी भी चीज का समाधान है, चाहे वो आर्थिक परिप्रेक्ष्य में हो या फिर वैश्विक परिप्रेक्ष्य में, या फिर अगर हम क्लाइमेट क्राइसिस जो कि आज का बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा है उसकी बात करें, या जितनी भी चीजें हैं उसका समाधान तभी होगा जब हम सभी एक साथ आके और इसके खिलाफ और या फिर उसके खिलाफ कोई कदम उठाए। अगर हम बात करें क्लाइमेट क्राइसिस की, ये तभी सॉल्व होगा जब सभी देश मिलके इसके लिए कदम उठाए। अगर हम बात करें रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर की, ये तभी सॉल्व होगा जब सभी देश मिलके इसके लिए आगे आए, ना कि पर्टिकुलरली एक कंट्री है जो सपोर्ट करिए अगेंस्ट में है। लेकिन इसके साथ साथ डिप्लोमेसी को भी साथ रखना काफी जरूरी है, क्योंकि हमें अपनी जो एक स्वतंत्रता है उसको भी सुनिश्चित रखना है। तो यही
आई थिंक वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट देयर कि डिप्लोमेसी करते करते अपनी इंडिविजुअल नेशनल स्ट्रैटेजी है या अपने इंडिविजुअल टाइज है विद सेपरेट नेशंस, दैट आल्सो हैज टू बी मेंटेन। डू यू गाइस थिंक, व्हाट डू यू गाइस थिंक, हाउ हैज इंडिया रियली हैंडल्ड इट्स वे थ्रू द रशिया यूक्रेन क्राइसिस?
I think building on upon what the girl in front of me has just spoken about, how during the start India was neutral towards it, which as the people of India we were quite appreciative of, because we were confused as well with our long-standing friendship with Russia. And while Americas and the UKs, they understood our situation, they were still a little they found a little questionable that this is a time when there are so many humanitarian crimes being committed, that India as an emerging superpower needs to take a stand somewhere. And I think that question that was raised on India was answered beautifully by Prime Minister Modi ji, as he's without taking anybody's sides, just simply stated that this is not the era of war, putting a very positive tone and a positive outlook on the way India is seen in this entire situation.
Right. This is not the era of war, and India has, in fact, reiterated it time and again at various global fora. Also, like we talked about, India following the path of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. It's not just the Russia-Ukraine crisis. We've also seen it through the COVID pandemic. We've not just made our own vaccine, we've also provided it to other countries. As a young Indian, what do you think of it? How do you think the country has dealt with these two crises that the world has grappled with? And what do you make of the government's approach to this?
So I feel India has dealt with the COVID crisis beautifully. It has not only helped, like we are one of the most populated countries in the world, and not only did they provide vaccination to all the citizens of our country, but they also reached to sub-Saharan areas, to the developing nations, and they have helped them with the vaccine drive that they did. So I think it's a pretty good job done by India on that front.
Yeah, I'm glad that as young Indians, you are in fact appreciative of, what the government has done and how it's really helped its citizens. I'll come back to the Russia-Ukraine crisis because it involves a lot of complexities of relationships, but it also reflected how beautifully India navigated its way through a crisis that was very sensitive in nature, and G20 happening right now under India's presidency amid the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Every global forum is talking about the Russia-Ukraine crisis. First it was the pandemic, now it's the Russia-Ukraine crisis. How do you see India really dealing with it? And, we've seen all those viral videos of the External Affairs Minister as well, of course. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, the government has handled this beautifully. But I'm sure we've also got fans of the External Affairs Minister here, right? How many of you have been going through his videos and are great fans? Right, so yes, a lot of fan following that has increased. But what do you make of this whole situation? First, tell me your name.
I'm Seerat Gupta from Digital Media. So I believe that India is at a key position. As far as Russia and Ukraine war is concerned, we are a key mediator in the conflict, and I believe that we're at a good position to help in mediating this. And as a country, India has always talked about peace. We've always promoted peace, and Russia being a good friend of ours, I think this has put us in a place where we can actually take it forward towards a positive space. And with G20 also happening, I think this is a great forum for us to again discuss this and take it towards a better solution, a more peaceful solution.
Right. One of the key agendas of the G20 summit will also be climate crisis, climate change, something that we are all dealing with. The impact is it's impacting us every day of our lives. What is interesting about G20 and why it's very significant is that it is a grouping of developed as well as developing countries, something that you don't find very often. Now, that makes it very interesting because climate change is an issue, and we saw it in COP27 as well. That there is a tussle that goes on between developed and developing countries. Who's to blame? Who is contributing how much? Who will pay up for how much? What do you guys think of that, and how do you think G20 help करेगा इस चीज में?
मेरा नाम कुणाल किशोर है, मैं हिंदी पत्रकारिता में हूँ IIMC नई दिल्ली से। जैसा कि आपने कहा कि क्लाइमेट चेंज के बारे में क्या करना है, लेकिन क्लाइमेट चेंज अभी हाल ही में प्रधानमंत्री और सभी राष्ट्राध्यक्ष गए थे, तो उन्होंने मैनग्रोव्स की एक तरह से वहाँ पे मैनग्रोव्स के पेड़ों को लगाया, और कहीं ना कहीं मैनग्रोव्स क्लाइमेट चेंज की ओर एक बड़ा वो अपने कार्बन सोखते हैं और ऑक्सीजन तो बाहर छोड़ते ही हैं, साथ ही साथ एक जब बाढ़ या सुनामी जैसी स्थिति आती है तो वो उसका बचाव भी करते हैं। कहने की क्लाइमेट चेंज आज हमारा बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि G20 जो है लगभग 70% क्लाइमेट कार्बन एमिशन करती है आपके इन्वायरमेंट में, एज पर द डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज, द डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज मोर इमिटेड कार्बन टुवर्ड्स द क्लाइमेट एंड नेचर।
सो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज इनका कहना है contribute more, they have more carbon footprint. Do you also blame developed countries? What do you make of this developing versus developed situation in the context of climate change?
माय नेम इज़ इबादुर रहमान, मैं उर्दू जर्नलिज्म से हूँ। सो जो ये क्वेश्चन है डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज़ और कार्बन इमिशन, तो ये बात बिल्कुल सही है और बहुत सारे जो इंडेक्सेस हैं उसमें ये चीज़ क्लियर है कि कैसे डेवलप्ड कंट्री जो है उनका कार्बन इमिशन जो है वो अंडर डेवलप या डेवलपिंग कंट्री से काफ़ी ज़्यादा है। तो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज ज़ाहिर है वो कंट्रीब्यूट कर रही हैं, और जो ग्लोबल वेस्ट है, जो ई वेस्ट है, उसमें भी जो है जो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज है वो ज़्यादा कंट्रीब्यूट कर रही हैं। इवन जो डंपिंग की प्रॉब्लम है, जो वेस्ट डंप कर रहे हैं, तो उसमें भी जो क्लाइमेट चेंज है वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा हो रहा है। तो ये एक बड़ा कंसर्न है, एंड वी आर बीइंग वन ऑफ द लीडिंग कंट्रीज जिसने प्लास्टिक बैन किया ओवरऑल पूरी कंट्री में। तो हम इस ओर काफ़ी सीरियस हैं, और इवन जो हमारी गवर्नमेंट का इनिशिएटिव है सोलर पैनल्स को लेके, और एक नया सोलर अलायंस को लेके जो काम किया जा रहा है, तो इन सारे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में कहीं ना कहीं इंडिया जो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज हैं उनसे अच्छा काम कर रहा है, बेटर परफॉर्म कर रहा है, और हम होप कर रहे हैं कि इंडिया और भी अच्छा करेगा।
Absolutely, and I think that is something very appreciative of the government, and the approach that it has taken towards climate change is that, like he said, single-use plastic has been banned, international solar alliance has been made, but ये तो है about G20 में agenda. And such forums have, policy makers, they've got leaders who come and make policies for all of us. But as a young Indian, मुद्दे की बात वहीं आ जाती है that what are you doing in your lives to actually deal through this crisis? आप everyday life में how have you made changes to deal with climate change?
अगर हम एवरीडे लाइफ की बात करते हैं तो क्लाइमेट चेंज के लिए एज अ सिटीज़न, एक इंडियन सिटीज़न हूँ मैं, तो मैं अपने लेवल पर जो कर सकती हूँ, तो मुझे अपने आसपास प्लांट्स लगाने चाहिए, प्लांटेशन करना चाहिए ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा। और अगर मैं कहीं बाहर जाती हूँ तो मुझे वहाँ पर भी ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि मैं वहाँ जो रूल्स बनाए गए हैं उनको फॉलो करूँ।
And what do you guys do? How have you guys made any changes in your daily lives?
I think this is one of the initiatives highlighted in the G20 presidency as well, the mission life. Right. So lifestyle changes are required. Consumerism should be, not be pursued anymore. The wasteful way we have been living, we have been purchasing everything, throwing it away the next week. We have to reuse, we have to reduce, we have to recycle. Those are the things that I personally have been following. I have been reusing clothes, I have been donating them further, I have been reusing paper. So as beautifully highlighted by the Prime Minister Modi and our Foreign Minister Jaishankar in the G20 presidency as well, that mission lifestyle for environment is really required to ensure that sustainable development goals are met in the coming future.
Interesting point he made about lifestyle for environment, but in today's age and times in which we live, and that is also one of the agendas of G20, is Industry 4.0. The era of artificial intelligence, of digital revolution, and a lot of you here are also from digital media, you're students of digital media, and one of your friends talked about e-waste, जो electronic waste हम generate करते हैं, we don't realize it कि हम daily life में अपने कितना electronic waste generate करें. We might be, we can blame developed countries as much as we want, but at the end of the day, we are also contributing to it. What do you guys make of it? What do you guys think of e-waste, and how can we handle it?
I think e-waste can be handled through technology transfer from developed countries. For example, Australia, one of Indian entrepreneur in Australia have developed that technology, and she is making jobs from street vendors and waste collectors. So we need to share the best practices throughout the world.
India can become a bridge. Do you agree with your friend?
100%. Coming back to India launching UPI, that is the Unified Payment Interface. So Singapore के साथ partnership के बारे में everyone knows here. So I think that is the biggest achievement, and that is the most that should become the most talked about thing in the coming meetings of the G20. So I think, that is the greatest.
Which is also wonderful, because especially after the pandemic, we have like roadside vendors, हमारे सब्जी बेचने वाले, हमारे चाय वाले भैया, वो सब लोग digital payment use करते हैं, and which is, quite fascinating. I mean, you wouldn't have thought about it probably a few years back. How do you see the digital revolution that has taken place in India?
So as we talk about the digital revolution, this is one thing which we need to appreciate about the present government as well, that from the last 6 months, the data penetration or particularly the internet penetration has been increasing in our country, all thanks to the cheapest internet available across the world. And this has been appreciated by most of the countries. Now we are even planning to connect our panchayats and villages through fiber optic. That's a very ambitious project also of the Indian government. And I think that India, as the president of G20, can contribute much in increasing the internet penetration in the developing countries also, as well as underdeveloped countries, particularly the sub-Saharan and all. So I guess there is long way to go, and India can lead the digital domain.
We are in fact leading the digital domain in the developing world at least, and there's such a huge difference, right? When we were children, we would maximum use MS Paint, या फिर वो computer access भी शायद कई बच्चों के पास नहीं होता था हमारी generation के, but now we have, like we talked about, the UPI payment and how every nook and corner of the country has this. Digitally, how do you see lives, your daily life changing, and how do you see, like we talked about, India really leading the way, especially when it comes to the global south and the Southeast Asian region?
Hello, my name is Ayush and I am from DM. I think digital is become a part and parcel of our life, especially after COVID. Like from our morning brew, or like if we talk about Internet of Things, or like newspaper, or you have mentioned the UPI, this all become part and parcel of our life, and I don't think that we are going anywhere back from this achievement.
Right. One of the interesting things about G20 is also the fact that India se pehle, the presidency was with Indonesia. Now it has come to us, and next we will be passing it on to Brazil. So, a lot of importance being given to global south. We've also emerged as a key player when it comes to international concerns and international agenda, and, sort of leading the way, like we talked about, during crisis through peace and diplomacy. How do you see the global south and the Southeast Asian region really gaining importance in these times?
I think that India has a big role to play because of also a new EAM who's Mr. Jai Shankar, and he's providing a lot of info and very scathing insights even to Europe, that they're taking more help from Russia than they're giving help to Ukraine, and how India's not wrong to take help from Russia and have continuing ties with Russia. And then there's the ASEAN, the Southeast Asian countries, which have a lot of hold economically. Countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and even Thailand now have a lot of economic hold through their tourism sectors and other sectors. They provide a lot of power, or and then there's the soft power that India provides with its film industry, and now that the arena has opened up with social media, there's all sorts of content creators and contributors. So there's a lot of vibrancy that can come out of Southeast Asian and South Asian countries. So we shouldn't count them out, and with economic strength, India can also lead the way in the future.
And talking about economic strength, I think India has been one of those countries which has maintained its economic balance despite the pandemic and despite the Russia-Ukraine crisis. We've seen ample number of global organizations talk about it, whether it's the IMF or the World Bank. They have mentioned it, that India, as compared to other countries, has been seeing a steady growth. Now, like I talked to them about Global South and Southeast Asian region, and he also talked about Bollywood being a soft power. And we've got, a plethora of cultures that we can gift to the world. We've gifted the world yoga, Ayurveda, all of these things. What do you make of India's position in the changing geopolitical order that we have seen in the past few years?
So I'm Kuljit. I'm from RTV department, IMC Delhi. So what I feel is India is becoming a rule maker. Then prior to this, it was a rule taker sort of country. But now when we look at the geopolitical state of whole the nations across the globe, So we see that there are different issues that are going on right now. There is recession, there is also Russia-Ukraine war. So the role of India becomes really prominent. And when we talk about how does the geopolitical scenario looks like at this point, so we have to majorly focus on how India is putting up the front of when we talk about how they take up the policies ahead.
This is a great opportunity, of course. As a young Indian, not just as a budding journalist, how do you think you can contribute to really sort of changing the image of India? In fact, not just changing, probably that's not the right word. It's probably bringing out the truth of India, bringing out the cultural diversity that we live in, the beauty that we live in every day. How do you think as a young Indian you can bring that out on the global stage?
To answer your question, I'm going back to the television arena. The fact that people don't realize in 90s shows like Friends and in 2000 Modern Family helped USA establish its soft power. So in cultural sense, if we can form shows that are appreciated in global arena, that could help. Bollywood is a big factor in Arab countries or in sub-Saharan region. Bollywood is very much appreciated. So as a young Indian, as a journalist, I would answer, if we can bring out India's side of story.
Very nicely put there, that we need to bring out the stories of India, the stories from rural India, the stories from urban India. But I'm going to sort of come down to a very, very micro level. हमारी daily life में हम Instagram use करते हैं. All of you use Instagram. Do you think you could use social media platforms, Insta Reels बना के, Insta Stories के through you can also bring out the stories of India and the beauty of India?
बिल्कुल मैम, मेरा नाम सचिन मिश्रा है. मैं हिंदी जर्नलिज्म डिपार्टमेंट से हूँ, IMC न्यू दिल्ली. ये जो सोशल मीडिया है, खास करके न्यू मीडिया, बहुत ही ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर सकती हैं. और हमने देखा कि कुछ कुछ ऐसे भी जर्नलिस्ट आ रहे हैं बहुत ही ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों से, जो कहीं ना कहीं वहाँ के इशू को उठा रहे हैं, जो काफ़ी नेशनल इशू बन रहे हैं, बाद में जो मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया है उसको कवर कर रही है. तो बेशक इसको बहुत ही, अगर ग्राउंड रूट लेवल से देखें, हम लोग ग्रास रूट लेवल से देखें, तो इसको एक बहुत बड़े इशू के तौर पर देख सकते हैं और इसकी समाधान भी हो सकती है. मैं एक चीज़ कोट करना चाहूँगा. आपने बोला था वर्ल्ड मीडिया का क्या पर्सपेक्टिव रहती है इंडिया को लेकर, तो मैं नाम नहीं लेना चाहूँगा. एक बहुत बड़ी एजेंसी है, उन्होंने झारखंड में आके एक रिपोर्ट किया और बारिश के टाइम में खदान में जो कोयला के खदान होते हैं, और दिखाया कि कैसे यहाँ पे चाइल्ड लेबर को लगाया जाता है, कितनी ज़्यादा उनकी शोषण होती है. लेकिन मैम जब इसका फैक्ट चेक किया गया तो पता चला कि बरसात में तो खदान वहाँ की बंद होती हैं. तो कहीं ना कहीं जो वेस्टर्न मीडिया है वो आते हैं एक पार्टिकुलर टाइम में, पता भी नहीं चलता है, यहाँ की बहुत ही निगेटिव छवि को पेश की जाती है.
What do you make of, as a young Indian, what do you want to say to youngsters who might be watching you out there about not just India's G20 presidency, but as we talked about, India's role in the global scenario right now?
Hello. So I would want to say that to the youngsters, that today as young people we have a huge presence on social media. So we can use this power of social media to actually bring our Indian values and our culture out there in the world. And as we have already seen that India's G20 presidency during this time is extremely significant because of the various challenges that our world is facing. So yeah, as the youngsters, we must definitely use the power of social media to bring forward the values and cultures of India.
All right, and on that note, I'm going to wrap up this lovely discussion that I've had with you guys. Well, when it comes from young Indians, you can't deny it that you have to be proud of your diversity, you have to be proud of your roots, and when it comes to India, it is leading the world in various global concerns. Well, this is it in Y Factor, but next time we come up with something interesting. Till then, bye-bye.